Hey everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be doing some no-line watercolor for a little still life using the Stampin' Up! Lemon Zest bundle. I'm stamping the lemon from this bundle in Daffodil Delight ink. After removing just a tiny bit of the ink for a highlight, you can see there. With my blue fingernail, I also have some Radiant watercolor from P.H. Martin under my fingernail there. And I'm doing this for a prompt for World Watercolor Month. I've been watercoloring or sketching every day, and it's been so much fun. There'll be a link with more information about that on my blog, as well as a link to this tape and the stamp set and all the watercolors that I'm using today. I went back to my Schmincke watercolor today. It's been interesting since I've spent so much time with my Daniel Smith watercolors recently to see the differences between these two brands. Watercolor brands are all very unique and have unique properties, and so it's fun to go back and forth, especially using what are labeled as the same colors, but of course they're all just a tiny bit different and unique. I masked off sort of a wall behind the lemon, and I just painted some Payne's Gray on that for sort of a moody background with a little bit of a wash. And I want the foreground to be just a little bit lighter, so I'm adding more water underneath the lemon, and I'll add shading later. But now I'm going to work on the lemon itself. So the Daffodil Delight ink just gave me basically the outline. And I'm going to try to make it look like an oil painting or a watercolor still life with a little bit of abstraction. So I'm adding some burnt sienna here just for shading. I want kind of irregular shading, just hints of different colors. This is Payne's Gray again. And I left the yellow part very wet before I added those colors in, and that's why they spread out and give me that painterly look. And I did part of the shadow with Payne's Gray. I'm going to come back. You'll notice it's not touching the lemon, but I'm going to come back and add to that. Now I'm arranging the two leaves the way I want them and picking them up on a single stamp block, stamping those also in Daffodil Delight. Before painting them, I'm using the olive green yellow shade. It's very harmonious with the rest of the colors that I used on the lemon. So it was the perfect green. And then I'm shading this also with Payne's Gray. Again, for harmony in the whole piece, I like to keep my shadows the same. I also love a hue called Neutral Tint. That's one of my favorites. It's similar to Payne's Gray, but it's not a pre-mixed color, which Payne's Gray is. And so when you get pure pigments that aren't pre-mixes, they tend to mix a little bit cleaner than the pre-mixes, although I do love Payne's Gray and I use it a lot. Now I'm just free-handing a stem to connect the two leaves and the lemon. And that is with sepia brown, which I'll also add a little bit to the leaves, and then come back and paint the shadow of the leaves with Payne's Gray, going back towards the lemon. And now I'm going to add the darker shadow near the lemon with more intense Payne's Gray, and make sure that just goes underneath the fruit, so that there are sort of two levels of that shadow, the dark one closer to the lemon, and then fading out to a lighter one. And then I'll just clean up the lines with cold press watercolor paper. It is rough, and so sometimes I find that I get a little obsessive about going around the edges of things and cleaning up that jaggedy line. I know I shouldn't worry about it, but I can't help it. I'm a Virgo. It happens. So I add a little bit more of both of my shadow colors, both the sepia and the Payne's Gray, just to get rid of a few hard edges that I saw, which are fine if you leave them in, but I didn't want them. So there's my lemon. I added the sentiments from the stamp set, and I love the way this turned out. I hope you give no line watercoloring a try. Thanks so much for watching.